Reason for Everything by dogpawsswapgod. That's me. Chapter 3, Vi, 4 through 5. 4. Vi wakes again in the dim, stinking room. Her eyes adjust to the yellow light filtering in through the tall, grimy window. She lays on her side, her head pounding, her vision slowly clearing as much as possible in her state, and the room comes once again into a murky focus. Bottles, puddles of stained gauze, bandages hardening on the floor, every surface streaked with thick lines of axle grease, the smell of it cutting through the reek of stale booze and puke and blood. It's oily and familiar and heartbreaking. There, shoved under a table less than a meter from her face, the awkward tumbled shapes of the Atlas gauntlets, covered by the heavily padded fabric of a torn and stained enforcer's battle dress uniform. A dull brass shape quietly watches Vi from atop the heap. A sort of amber eye, the edge of a deputy's badge. It's already tarnishing, its shining brass face gradually rusting in the dense air down here in the fissures. Vi pushes herself up, her feet, still in their boots, finding the floor. A bottle rolls noisily away as she shifts her weight and stands. Her head swirls with a sickening, familiar vertigo as she rises. This sends her retching to the sink. Her hands grip either side of the porcelain bowl, already stained with dried blood. Her right hand slips on some grease there, and her head pitches forward, her hard brow leaving a small spiderweb of cracks colored by a red starburst of blood on the mirror. Vi tears a narrow strip from the roll of bandaged gauze hanging on the wall nearby and sticks it over the wound. She says nothing, only washing out her mouth and splashing her face and body with cold, polluted water. She quickly dries herself with her cleanest towel, which is rigid with hardened blood. With the roll of gauze, she wraps her chest tightly between her navel and her collarbone. Her breasts crush painfully and safely against her, straining against the strips of coarsely woven tape adhering to them. Pulling her coat around her shoulders, Vi steps out into the morning air. Loris is sitting in his usual place at the bottom of the iron steps leading to the steel door of the room. His back is turned to her. At the sound of the door slamming shut, he stands, clearing the way. Vi walks past him, saying nothing, and feels him follow her down the alley and into the street. Jericho's stall is not close, and the walk there takes even longer as the pair adjust their route to avoid checkpoints, which increase in number by the day. The enforcers have grown more aggressive, too. In the past few weeks, even Noxian soldiers have started to appear in pairs alongside the squads of Piltover's finest. The hulking, masked spearmen bring newer, more brutal methods to kettle, screen, and interrogate the increasingly cowed and fearful population of the occupied Undercity. Even so, Vi's feet carry her every morning in longer and more convoluted routes to Jericho's stall. When she arrives and settles into her stool, Loris beside her, Jericho's back is turned. The fat on his massive blue arms wobbles with every motion of his enormous cleaver. He soon turns and deposits 2 bowls of porridge onto the wooden board, which is scarred and graffitied with initials and symbols of the people of the lanes. Near Vi's right hand, though she doesn't look at it, a small hourglass is scrawled in white paint. Under the bowl in front of her, she's almost managed to forget, a child's tiny drawing of 2 smiling faces, faded with age. A pair of sisters, one scribbled in bright pink, the other had been drawn with less confident lines in an innocent powder blue. Vi's bowl steams and her head pounds. A single purple tentacle curls out of the warm slot before her. She reaches for it with 2 fingers, missing it at first, her eyes crossed and her head still swimming. She pinches again and comes back with a cut of meat, holding it under her nose. Its smell is familiar, though it turns Vi's stomach. She swallows it anyway, but makes no move to eat more of her breakfast. To her left, Loris is quietly spooning his up. He waits for her usual admonishment for this behavior. "You carry that cute little spoon everywhere," she'll usually say, or something to that effect, drinking her meal from the cracked lip of the bowl it was served in. A mean-spirited smile would curl up around the edge of the bowl as she said it. "Spoon, bitch," she'd call him, and Loris would snort. Today, Vi says nothing. Loris turns his head in time to see her slump forward, her face heading for the edge of the stall. He reaches with the hand nearest her, steadying her by the elbow, yanking her back in her seat gently. Her head lolls back, then snaps forward, eyes open. With 2 fingers, Loris nudges Vi's bowl toward the wrapped hand that's resting near the hourglass graffiti. When it touches her, she stirs. Gripping the bowl between sore hands, she raises it to her mouth. She eats only a little before fumbling it back onto the board. Vi turns to look at Loris. The orange-green morning light glitches into deep gray-blue, and his wide silhouette is replaced with a different one. Kate's looking at her from under a hood. Her eyes are angry, and she speaks with an edge of fear in her voice. "I didn't break you out of prison to eat slop." Vi's eyes widen, and the scene glitches again. Kate blinks out of sight, replaced by Loris. His face is placid and friendly. "Break me out?" Vi asks, confused. Her first spoken words of the day struggle unwillingly, dragging sharp chains up her throat as she pushes them to her mouth and out into the air. She coughs and spits a loogie into the street. Loris watches her, unfazed. Vi often says things to him that don't seem to be meant for him at all. He's used to it. Vi lurches from her seat, not hearing the sound of coins spinning on the serving board of Jericho's stall as Laura stands to follow her. Jericho burbles a jovial "see you later" after them, but Vi doesn't hear that either. Tonight is fight night. In her ears, she only hears the intoxicating throb of the crowd chanting "Fat Hands." Blinding lights, strobe and flash. Vi weaves to avoid an incoming punch, or no. She dips a shoulder and bounces her head heavily, dancing to a relentlessly pounding electronic beat. A rainbow of colorful lights cut across her vision, each containing a sliver of something real. But Vi isn't sure which real thing is happening right now. In one red beam, another fist is moving at mock speed toward her ribs, while in a streak of green she sees an ugly face lurch toward her, smiling with brown teeth. A cold blue spotlight pulses on and off, sometimes benign, but once or twice Jinx stands at the center of it. She looks into Vi with eyes holding neither sympathy nor malice. In a bolt of heavenly white, Caitlin dances with sultry steps, her eyes locked to Vi's as she moves closer, then further away. Vi advances into the mob after Kate, swimming through the disco lights, stomping heavy but rhythmic steps. She dodges another fist cutting out of the red light and tries to move past the hideous green-cast face to reach her in the heat of the strobing white light that's flashing chaotically at the center of the dance floor. Her hands ball into fists, then reach with aching fingers. Kate appears again, so close this time. Vi moves to reach her. Out of the green comes the face again, its mouth opening wider, and a dripping tongue waggling toward her. Vi sees red and feels a dull pain spread from her knuckles above the familiar sensation of breaking bone. She opens her eyes. There's blood on her face. Not hers. Before her, the ugly man is holding his smashed nose, blood gushing between his fingers. He looks at Vi and lurches toward her angrily. She stands stupidly, not sure why this is happening. She looks around, but Kate is nowhere to be found amid the dizzying light show. Before the ugly man can reach Vi, Loris is there. He puts his huge body between the two of them. The man swears and tries to push past him to reach her, but Loris holds him in place with one large hand. Vi puts the pieces together and gets angry. She screams around Loris at the man, who looks like someone she can't remember anything about, except that she hates him with everything inside of her. Vi's arm shoots out, her middle finger extended, and she spews obscenities trenchers reserve for their most hated enemies. Loris gently holds her back as she moves to attack the man again. The man spits blood onto the dance floor, angry, but soon turns and shuffles away, accepting his defeat to the reigning champ. Vi doesn't remember leaving the club, but finds herself already in the alley at the bottom of the iron stairs leading to the room. Loris is with her. He's practically carrying her. She pushes him away and looks at him, still confused. It's a cold night, and Loris is wearing his stained and torn enforcer's heavy coat over his shoulders. Vi hasn't seen him wear it in a long time, and the sight of it pisses her off. She thinks about the pile of thick blue fabric laying in a heap upstairs, the fucking badge still sitting on top, waiting to catch the next bit of light that finds its way into the room and casts its amber eye accusingly at her for what? For keeping it? For having accepted it at all? Fuck you, Loris, she roars, not for the first time. I don't need your fucking help. Fuck off. She aims a haymaker right at his ear, fully intending to shatter his jaw if that's what it's going to take. But as she leans into the punch, twisting her toe into the ground and pushing her strength up her leg to send the necessary power to her fist, the vertigo swirls between her ears. She loses track of her fist, and the arm it's attached to. Feeling as though she's falling up toward the starless night sky, she tumbles forward. Loris catches her under her arms and sits her down hard on the iron steps. She accepts this, hanging her head between her knees as the vertigo spins her. "Why are you here?" she asks, not looking at him. Loris's voice slides through the darkness to Vi. He sounds far away, though he's only a few feet from her, where he's leaning against a brick wall, watching her. "I promised a friend." Vi looks up from under black, greasy tangles of hair. She pinches the bridge of her nose and closes her eyes as a wave of nausea punishes her for this quick change in position. Loris had never answered that question before, though Vi hurls at him most nights she can remember. "Not sure I heard you right, spoon bitch," she says, meeting his gaze now. "Someone sent you here?" "No one sent me." Loris rubs the hem of his heavy coat between two thick fingers. Vi watches a single brass button, embossed with a seal of Piltover, twinkle under the light hissing from the gaslights around them. She sneers, her face and ears getting hot, her hands curling again into fists. Why is he wearing that fucking coat? Why hadn't he gotten rid of it? The rage grows inside her chest as she thinks again about the uniform and badge that sit upstairs, within reach. Why had she kept them? They represent everything she had grown up hating, everything that's to blame for the tragedies that have been served up to her in ever-increasing portions. Why had she kept the uniform and the badge? How had she been able to put them on in the first place? Vi wants to stand, but remains slumped heavily on the bottom step. Why don't you go back and tell your friend that you succeeded, okay? I'm fine. I'm Fat Hands, the reigning champion of the pits of the Undercity. I've got a gig and a pot to piss in, so fuck off back to your friend and tell him you fulfilled your promise. I can't, come Loris's voice again. He's dead. Vi has had enough. She explodes from her seat on the freezing step and shoves Loris hard against the wall. She pounds her deadly fists against his collarbones, grabbing the fraying lapels and pulling the heavy coat violently from his shoulders. She holds it in her hands and with the last of her strength tears it from collar to hem. The expensive thick wool comes apart with a nasty ripping sound. She pushes the torn coat from her hands as if diseased. It lay between them, ruined, swelling with oily water from the puddle it sits in. I don't want your help, Loris. I never did. Vi takes a step back, squaring up to her shadow. Just get lost. Your promise isn't my problem. You can't use me to fix your mistakes. Not my mistake. His. Loris speaks in his usual tone. Vi looks into his face, placid and friendly, something sorrowful in his eye. A regret, a missed opportunity, a broken promise. Vi understands all three perfectly, but can't bring herself to care about which it is for Loris, or why, or for who. She doesn't want to hear what he's trying to tell her. There's something important here, something having to do with Vi, but she doesn't have the strength for it. Every unanswered question, once answered, is a path to more pain. Whatever this is, she barks back at him, it isn't my problem, and it isn't my fault. None of this was ever your fault, he replies. His arm twitches as he aborts a motion that would have ended with his hand on her shoulder. He knows she won't accept it, that it would make things worse. He looks at her and thinks about the fight tonight, followed by the incident at the club. Vi had moved with her usual deft competence until she hadn't. He'd watched from above the pit as she'd allowed more and more blows to land on her face and into her ribs, dropping her guard earlier and more often, baiting her combo. She had just barely won this fight, finishing with a KO while clearly seeing stars from all the punches she'd eaten. Loris sees what's happening. Fat Hand's pit fighting career is reaching a turning point. This isn't a time to leave her alone. Loris opens his mouth to speak, then closes it. Vi isn't all there right now. Better to wait for the morning. He can begin his explanation over breakfast at Jericho's stall. It's time to come clean. Vi deserves to know the truth. It probably won't stop her downward trajectory, but it might slow it down somehow. He bends down and retrieves the sopping wet remains of the coat. Standing again, he moves past her. Misunderstanding his motion, Vi pushes him away again. I said, fuck off, she screams, and falls against the stairs, gripping the handrail feebly. Loris raises his arm, letting out a frustrated sigh, regretting how he's watched while things have gone from bad to worse. He tromps down the stairs out of the alley and back into the street. He's focused on the words he'll say to her in the morning, what order they'll go in. Distracted by this, he turns a corner and walks right into a pair of Noxian soldiers. In the alley, Vi struggles alone up the steps and through the heavy door, wondering why it's so difficult to get to bed tonight. Inside, her eyes find the heap of uniform and the obnoxiously designed badge where they have sat for months, covering the Atlas gauntlets. It's all coming apart. Kate's voice again. Vi presses her fist hard into her ears, not wanting to hear any more. No, it's not. We won't let it. Another broken promise. Vi cries out, reaching for the uniform and badge. She flies from the room with them clenched angrily in one bloody fist. The heavy door slams loudly in her wake, and the room goes back to being empty. Artwork by Honeybee-arts. Five. The first time Fat Hands falls to a punch, the crowd flies into a frenzy to see her get up. She's down but not out, though she's taking a long time getting back to her feet. Her challenger misses his opportunity to pounce, a little stunned that he had nearly knocked out the champ. His wide fist had come away from the punch that felled Fat Hands covered in axle grease, spit, and blood, some of it his own. His knuckles are cut, having streaked across the biting edge of the downed brawler's yellowing teeth. The crowd roars, Fat Hands! Fat Hands! Fat Hands! Vi sprawls gracelessly on the mat, face down, her eyes open but not quite seeing. The chant rings in her ears and her head pounds, as it always does now. She coughs, spitting a trail of snot and blood from her broken lips onto the stained, stinking canvas. She doesn't move. The bell doesn't ring. Somehow Fat Hands is still in this fight. She's the favorite, and a lot of money rides on the assumption of her continuing the win streak that has torn through this season's most promising up-and-comers in the butterfly weight class, placing her at the top of every title card for the last 8 weeks. She isn't counting. A thumb is on the scale in Fat Hand's favor tonight. The shady character who decides when a fight was over in this establishment is leaning forward from his perch above the pit, eyeing his prize, who's currently ass up and bleeding at the feet of some nobody alternate. He gulps down another colorful grub, annoyed, making no move to sound the bell that will end the fight. Vi stirs slightly, and an electric bolt shoots from her jaw down to a still aching spot deep in her belly, just above her left hip bone. That keeps her down. The chant continues. A familiar voice cuts through the din, reaching Vi. Your guard still needs work. Vander. Vi's mouth moves to shape the beloved name, but the pain is too much, her face swelling, blood pouring from her nose, pooling into a sticky puddle that's fusing her cheek to the filthy canvas mat. Protect the family. Vi coughs, choking on blood and spit and a memory that's twisting a knife into her heart. I should have been there. For you. For everyone. Vi's lips twitch painfully as she tries and fails to repeat the words, her voice an inaudible gurgle. Maybe if she can say them right, her friend will show up to remind her. That's a good way to drive yourself crazy. Little man. Vi drags a loosely wrapped hand to her side, pressing the rock-hard knuckles to the canvas. The crowd erupts. She pushes up on her fist, her head lolling back, and peers through swelling eyes at the blurry, thick frame of her opponent. His fists go up, betraying his fear of her even now. Vi has never felt like less of a threat. A phantom hand seems to be gripping her wrist above the bloody fist she's propped on. That path, it's not going to solve your problems. It just makes more of them. Vi's eyes roll in her head, a stabbing pain piercing her body as she falls forward onto her face again. Her arm, still propped awkwardly on her half-open fist, flaps forward onto the canvas, a pathetic broken wing. The crowd gasps and goes quiet. The challenger stands over her, fists raised defensively, uncertain what to do. The champion doesn't move again. Chomping another grub between his needled teeth, the patron spits the slimy bite of his snack against the flat face of the round brass bell, and it rings out, breaking the spell. The crowd explodes into angry shouts. Glass bottles and crumpled betting cards, promissory notes for easy money, now invalid, arc into the ring, pelting the motionless heap that moments ago had been the hero to all present. Her opponent raises his fists in victory, a little dumbfounded but willing to take the win by TKO. He shuffles out of the pit and into the crowd to collect winnings he had not anticipated. In the ring, the loser lays unconscious. Only the shallow rise and fall of her shoulders signals that Fat Hands is still alive, though no one bothers to check. She's motionless, but feels a violently swirling acceleration between her ears, her eyes darting painfully behind her bruised eyelids, the blue light of her nightmare taking her. Fat Hands lay still in a smear of grease, the canvas drinking the blood of the former champion. No one comes for her.